Okay, the CrossFit Games season continues to change, and it might change more. It's been a little bit of chaos, and some people find that unsettling. I find it kind of exciting. I enjoy the changes. I lean into the chaos in my real life outside of YouTube. I am a news reporter. I like the breaking news stories, the craziness, the day of stories that are like constantly evolving. Those are my favorite. So for me, I just want to lean into the chaos, and I'm like, let's go. More changes, more craziness, more surprises. Although I do know other people don't like it as much as me, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But for me, I'm kind of enjoying the craziness of what's going on so far. So let's talk about it. So they added another in-person event just in the last few days, and that is the Northern California Classic. That event was happening regardless. That is not news. The fact that it is a way to qualify to the CrossFit Games, that part, that is definitely some news. And that event's near me, so I do hope to be at that event once it happens. But now we're in the qualifying period for that. That event was supposed to happen in September, which would be impossible to qualify people for the games. So now it's happening in June. The qualifier date has extended through the end of January so that more people can do it. They are inviting some athletes, but encouraging most athletes not to hope that they have enough status to get an invite and instead do the qualifier. Colton Mertens won the event last year. He's already signed up for the qualifier, and he would get an automatic invite because he is the reigning champion, and he's still signing up. So I've heard they're telling athletes that want to qualify for the games to do is to sign up and do the qualifier. And I mean, if you're a games level athlete, if you really believe that you have the chance to qualify through that event for the CrossFit Games, I would imagine you could do well enough in the qualifier to qualify. Plus right now, it's not like there's, except for Wodapalooza, but there's not a lot of events going on. You just have Wodapalooza and you have the whole month to do these workouts. Plenty of time for all those athletes to do them. And Northern California Classic is gonna be the final event qualifying people for the CrossFit Games. It's sort of your like last chance qualifier. So kind of cool that we got that, but it did change some other things. So at first I think people were unsure if the 2 people from the Northern California Classic that qualify were going to be an additional 2 people. So meaning a minimum of 30 athletes at the games, and this would bump it up to 32. That is not the case. It looks like in a comment, CrossFit Games cleared this up to someone who asked. 30 men and 30 women will advance the CrossFit Games. So that means now 12 people are advancing out of the online semifinals to qualify for the games instead of 14, making that an even harder place for people to qualify. So if you don't know how that works, we have the open, which everyone can do. I will do. You can do if you'd like to. Pretty much anyone could do the open. And I encourage people to do it. It's a fun way to test your fitness. I know some people are disappointed that quarterfinals doesn't exist this year, and that was a goal of theirs. But for more time than not, for me, that I have been doing the open, there has been no quarterfinals. Your CrossFit Games experience was just the open, and you tried to do as well as you could do there. Whatever metric you wanted to hit in quarterfinals, whatever percentage you wanted, you can still aim for that in the open, and you just give it all in the open. Top 25% for some people, that wasn't something you had to push as hard on those workouts to get, and then you would do quarterfinals and try and improve. Now it's just the open. So you just gotta hit those workouts as your games, and you can still see where you rank. You could still improve upon how you did last year, and you could still hit those marks. And if you wanted to get top 25 to qualify for the second part of quarterfinals, you could still try to go for top 25. That doesn't have to change. But you don't have to spend money on the second competition, which could be cool. Or you could do the Community Cup, which, I don't know, while I like the chaos of the season and I find it fun as a viewer, I do know it's confusing for the athletes, and also I think the chaos of like quarterfinals and now Community Cup can be a little bit disorienting. And I think we do in that sense, even though the CrossFit Games season for the elites is evolving and will probably continue to evolve a little bit over the next couple of years. I think we need something to stick for the general population because there's just so many more of those people to know what's going on. And if you ask me my opinion, I think we should just dump all of the stuff like that. The quarterfinals for like everyone who's not qualifying for the games or has no chance, like top 25%, the vast majority of the people have no chance of going to semifinals. That's just the truth. It's kind of a money grab probably. And the Community Cup, same thing. It's cool to like have a ranking. Could be a fun way to test yourself. But really, there's not a whole lot of point in it except for CrossFit to get a little bit of extra money. I know that's facilitating the prize purse for the games. So I will do it if, as long as I can. I plan to do that and have fun with it. But I do think a lot of this stuff is unnecessary and sort of leads to this whole idea that CrossFit doesn't know what they're doing with the season. It's constantly changing. We have nothing we can rely on. So I think having these things sort of makes CrossFit look more confused as to where they're going. And I think you could sort of minimize that by just eliminating all these extra competitions for people who have no chance of making it to the CrossFit Games and just have the Open. The Open has been super consistent over the entire time we've had it. It exists, you do it, it's a certain number of workouts. First it was 5 weeks of workouts, now it's 3 weeks of workouts with potentially a double scored event. Just keep that. That has been consistent, and I think it's worked really well. I think that's a great way to keep some consistency in the season for your general population, even if we have to evolve the season for the elites, because that's just a different ball game than me and most people who work out at the regular gyms and just are working out for fitness and not for a career.
After I finished recording this video and was editing it, I saw on Instagram that CrossFit Games and Dave Castro posted this video explaining a little bit more about the Community Cup. I am going to leave it up here with the sound sort of playing while I talk about it too, only because I don't want to get flagged for copyright infringement. But basically, Dave sort of explains what it is, why they're doing it. I'll leave some of that sound up. And the percentages of where you're gonna fall in that Community Cup based on how you did. So again, like I was talking about, you can still have goals to hit. You could try to get in that pro division. Although 88%, I don't really think people are finishing in the 88th percentile are pros. No offense to all of those people. Like advanced, intermediate, novice, all those things. You can hit those, that can be a goal of yours. And you can go watch that full video on the Instagram page if you want to hear Dave talk without me talking over part of it to avoid copyright infringements. Back to the video.
So if we use an example of Diane, 2159 handstand push-ups, deadlifts, the rookies might use 135 and substitute for the handstand push-ups, where the pros might do handstand walk, and we might amp it up to 275. So it'll be programmed appropriately for the group. The reason we did this is to give more athletes from the Open an opportunity to compete in another stage of competition, and I hope to see you on the leaderboard.
So you have the Open and the top 1%, which I don't think is crazy. I think that's a decent number. I think those are the people that have a real chance of getting to the CrossFit Games. You don't need the top 10% to go to quarterfinals or the top 25%. I mean, most of those people are not even that competitive comparative to the athletes that go to the CrossFit Games. 1%, I think it's a good number. So the top 1% can move on to either the in-person qualifying events that also have some separate other qualification processes, but also require that you are in the top 1% of the Open to move on to the CrossFit Games, or the in-affiliate semifinals, which the top 1% of CrossFit Open finishers will be invited to move on to, and that will be happening May 1st through 4th. So this online version, you can qualify directly to the games from that. We thought that was 14 athletes. It now is going to be 12 athletes now that we added the Northern California Classic in there as well. It's a lower number now, and that's a really hard thing to do, but you can qualify that way. It makes it very easy for some athletes that can't travel for one reason or another, or don't have the monetary resources to travel. Much easier to do it in your affiliate. You can control a lot of the elements, what time you want to do the workouts, who's around. You can control all of that. So for some people, maybe that's a better option. And it's sort of easy to do. If you're in the top 1% and you really want to qualify for the games, even if you want to do it in person, it's not that difficult to set this up and do it. It's not any different than having done quarterfinals. You are used to having that step now, having that step where you have to set up your camera for the second qualifying event to submit these videos. You're used to that, and it gives you multiple opportunities now to move on to the next step. We saw some athletes get dinged in quarterfinals, like Paige Powers, where she couldn't even compete in semifinals. If that happens now in affiliate semifinal, you can just go to an event. That's not as easy for some people versus others based on resources, but they could all do that. So you now have more than one opportunity to qualify for the CrossFit Games. I think that's a good option. Just more opportunities. So only 12 spots are coming from online. I know a lot of people, when they first heard about this online, some of the athletes and even some just spectators were like, we don't want to see people qualify online. We don't want to compete online.
Candidly, I have no interest in competing online.
Well, you don't have to. 18 of the 30 spots of Games athletes will be qualifying through in-person events, meaning the majority of the field is qualifying through in-person events. And there are a number of them. Some have rules, some don't. So people have more options than they have in most past years. If we go back to when we had these sanctionals, it's a little bit different, but more than last year. There's more opportunities for more people to qualify than last year. Less spots at the games, but more opportunities to get there. So these events are running from April to the first week of June, meaning this online version is happening May 1st through 4th. So it's happening in the middle. You can go to an in-person, have qualified, and then be like, I don't want to do the online version. I already have my ticket. Awesome. So lots of opportunities, lots of different opportunities and different times to qualify. And some of these events are sort of becoming a pseudo-regional where they only allow certain people from certain areas to compete in the event. We're seeing that with two of the events in North America. Syndicate Crown and the TFX Invitational are both only for their regions. Syndicate Crown being the east side of North America and TFX being the west. So you can only compete in those, kind of like when we used to have North America West and North America East. It's gonna look like the same thing. So there are some restrictions on some of the events. Some are open to everyone. You can do multiple. And others are going to be sort of restricted, but also in a way to protect the region from having like someone do every single event to try to qualify and take up spots from other people. So it's sort of protecting and allowing certain people to have the ability and the access to events versus everyone having all access to every event. It's interesting. It may change and evolve over the years. This is the first year of this new system. And this is why I'm saying that like some things may change and evolve. And maybe some things are just these smaller type things where it's like who and from what areas you allow people into the event, which is not really like a huge change, but I think we're going to continue to see evolution here of if events are going to be everyone from anywhere, or if more events are going to put these regional restrictions on them. Meanwhile, while all of this is going on, we still don't know the dates of the CrossFit Games. We did find out the dates for the Masters and Teens. They are happening together and they'll be happening in Columbus, Ohio. Those dates are August 21st through 24th. So my guess is we can probably say those are not the dates of the CrossFit Games, unless for some reason we're going back to the CrossFit Games having the Masters and Teens be together and they're all happening in Columbus. That would be a huge surprise that they wouldn't just announce that all at once. But for most of the time, we did have all those events happening in the same space. Sometimes at the same time, sometimes one would happen earlier in the week than the other. But it was just last year was the first time we really separated all those events. And we separated all of them. Teens, separate from Masters, separate from individuals. I don't know if there's this off chance that maybe they all come back together in Columbus, and maybe that was like the first hint that that's happening, but I doubt it. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that the CrossFit Games is happening, the general CrossFit Games is happening a different weekend, probably earlier in August in a different location. But we'll see. And I would imagine they have to tell us probably the next couple dates because open registration starts next week. Next Wednesday, I believe, the 15th, I think. So if that's when the registration for the open starts, I feel like they have to let us know when the games are before then. They don't have to really do anything, actually. I acknowledge that. They don't have to do anything, but I imagine they would. So on the opposite side of the games and going on to more opportunities, we have the World Fitness Project. They have been announcing a ton of athletes who are committed to doing their events, and they just announced when and where some of these events are happening. Only one, it looks like, is happening during semifinals competitions. And that is going to be an event that is happening the same weekend as the French Throwdown. The World Fitness Project event is in Indianapolis, cool city, could be a really cool event. Maybe something I'll think about attending. But those athletes that are committed to doing that, I guess can't compete in the French Throwdown. Will it matter? I don't know. I think a lot of the American athletes they have announced weren't going to compete at the French Throwdown anyway. Doesn't matter to them. But some of the European athletes may have been wanting to compete at the French Throwdown, or some of them may not be competing at all this year and it might not matter. I don't know if anyone's really having this issue right now where they realize these dates are coinciding with the dates of an event that could qualify them for the games. But I would imagine most athletes that are doing the World Fitness Project are okay. Someone who's not doing the World Fitness Project just yet, Tia-Clair Toomey. She definitely has enough clout to be invited. I'm not sure if they talked to her or not, or if she's interested. They still have a few more athletes I believe they can announce. I believe Noah Olson was talking about how he may be one of the athletes, which is really interesting because he's kind of past his CrossFit Games time. But maybe this is something else he can do in addition to the CrossFit Games or after the CrossFit Games that sort of keeps his career alive after his individual CrossFit Games career has come to an end. And maybe that's something we'll see from other athletes who are just at a different season of their career, choosing to go the World Fitness route to do something different, but to still be involved. I'm excited about this World Fitness Project. I think more opportunities for athletes to make money, more opportunities for athletes to compete is all good. I think competition breeds excellence. So having another competition will just push other competitions to be better, to try to compete, and to just give us better live streams and more to pay attention to. I'm all for it. Another one of their events is happening at the end of August, another one of the World Fitness Project events. That's pretty cool because I feel like after the CrossFit Games ends, there's usually this like lull until Rogue where we're all a little bored and don't have a lot to talk about or do in the CrossFit space. And this is something to look forward to. So all for that. And then late December is the championship end of the first World Fitness Project season. That is happening in Denmark, so that'll be pretty cool too, bringing it international. I know Europe wants more events. We saw Rogue have a lot of success going overseas, so I think this event is something that people want to see overseas. So overall, I think this CrossFit Games season, yes, it's chaos, and we went over this. I love chaos. It's kind of why I CrossFit. CrossFit workouts are kind of chaos. So I am a fan of like all of this stuff going on, all this newness to see like what it's gonna bring and how it's going to push CrossFit into its next era. I'm for it. And I'm excited to see it. And people that don't want to support the CrossFit Games anymore, they have other things to look forward to too. So I'm pretty excited. I think it's growth, and growth is good. And sometimes growth is uncomfortable. This may have uncomfortable moments. We should anticipate that. But overall, there's a lot going on, a lot to talk about, a lot to come on here and talk to all of you about and watch with all of you. So if you're enjoying this content, subscribe. I'll be sharing my open experience. We're not quite there yet. Once we get there, I'll be sharing that, which I always love doing, and doing the workouts and showing you guys how I did. That's a ton of fun. So subscribe if you want to see that. Like this video if you had a good time, and I'll see you in the next one. Wait, I have to get Carson, otherwise you guys are gonna be worried about him. Carson, come here. Come on, let's go.
One more thing I wish I had said, but I didn't, so I'm popping in here at the end to say the CrossFit Games didn't start as something with the goal of being this crazy televised fitness competition. It was a throwdown, it was a barbecue at the ranch in Aromas, California. And it sort of just became this thing that grew and then outgrew its space and has continued to grow. And I think CrossFit has sort of played a little bit of catch up, trying to professionalize it when its inception didn't involve it being a professional sport. So it kind of is growing in a difficult direction and not always in a linear way, because it's not like a planned city, right? Like, you ever go to a planned city and all the streets make all the sense in the world? It's alphabetical and numerical and you know exactly where you're going. And then you go to other cities that just formed over time and the street names make no sense and you have no idea where you're going. That's kind of how CrossFit is right now. And we just have to sort of deal with it. And it just wasn't the plan. And it's trying to figure out how to be what it's going to be. Also, while I was editing this, the rule book came out. Check that out on the CrossFit Games website. Some information might be there that we need to know. I'll be checking it out.
Here's my buddy. He's still around. He was just taking a nap after his long walk. Right? It's nap time. It's nap time here. He'll nap while I edit. All right, see you later. Bye.